Hey guys, Shadefyre here, and I'm bringing you something a little different today. This right here is Penumbra Overture, and it's a lesser well-known game by a little Swedish company called Frictional games. It was originally intended to be released as part of a trilogy of episodic games, but the trilogy was eventually cut down to 2 games, and then a third sort of sub-game, almost like an expansion pack, was released for the second game. It was originally released back in 2007, and on PC only, and then in 2009, after the other 2 parts of this had come out, it was released on Steam as a sort of triple pack, though you can still buy them individually. And they were on sale, I think, when they were originally released, like most things. It's a little hard to describe what the genre of this game is, but the best thing I could come up with is it is a first-person, physics-based puzzle, actions, adventure, horror game, with a little bit of survival horror mixed in. It's got very unique controls, as we'll see once we jump in, and you may well actually not have heard of Frictional games, but you may know them for their newer spiritual successor to the Penumbra series, Amnesia: The Dark Descent, which came out in 2010, and was released on Steam, and was a lot more successful just because people actually heard about it, and it actually had some marketing behind it, whereas Penumbra did not, and was pretty much sold on word of mouth only. Anyway, now that I've got all that verboseness out of the way, let's actually begin the game proper. I love how easy it is for players who are bad at action games. I'm tempted to play on hard, but it doesn't really change the game enough. It just makes you die easier. Do things that kill you anyway. So we're just gonna play it normal. For LP convenience sake. If you're not watching this in HD, you probably should, just because there's a lot of text.
For my part in this allegory, I'm not going to make the same mistakes my father made. Howard vanished from my mother's life before I was even in it, so when he sent me a letter a few days after Mum's funeral, it was the first I'd ever heard from him. Pity he was dead. Writing from beyond the grave must be a genetic habit in my bloodline. His letter contained a key, instructions, pleas for forgiveness. I figured the dead don't have much use for absolution, so I turned to his prophetic passing, which he inexplicably expected to come any day. Clearly averse to explanations, my father preferred to leave directions to a bank on Mayfair I'd never even heard of. In that bank was a safety deposit box in his name, and myself as executor. Of course, I went, as he knew I would. I discovered that despite the evidence, he'd been legally declared dead almost 30 years ago, and so the old book and collection of notes I found had, in the eyes of the law, been mine all this time. My father's instructions were to burn the documents, raise no further questions. But that was his error. No man's immune to the shameful trappings of curiosity, and my humanity got the better of me. The university I taught at was world renowned for 2 things: physics and linguistics. I represented the first, and the man who stood for the second was stumped by my recent acquisition. The book was indecipherable. The notes, however, showed a location somewhere in uninhabited northern Greenland. It took me almost a year to book the last flight I'd ever take. As I watched civilization disappear along with Heathrow, I realised my father had disappeared 3 decades ago, almost to the day, and I considered in turn what it was that I was leaving behind. We landed on a strip of ice a few feet wide, and within minutes I was pulling away on a chartered boat, beginning the 12-hour journey that would lead me into my past.
So this room right here is aboard the ship, and it's basically a little tutorial room. One more thing I want to say before we jump in properly is, you might be wondering why I'm doing this game and not Amnesia, which is considerably more well known. But I figured, since I know this game pretty well, also this is my first not blind LP, I actually have played this game multiple times, so I actually know what I'm doing for once. But yeah, I thought it'd be nice that people who've heard of Amnesia get to see where it originated, with all this, physics-based first-person gaming. So that's why I'm playing Penumbra, I'm not sure if I'm going to play both of them. It really depends on whether you guys want me to play the second one after I get through this one. But we'll decide that when it comes out. So as you can see, left mouse will let you grab anything with that little hand icon and flail it around. Pretty much everything is a physics object. So we can just mess up this guy's room. And if you right-click on anything, he'll give us his thoughts on it. Basically, it's the examine button. So pull open the drawers, we got the flashlight. Just use it to F. We've got our inventory. The flashlight has its own battery meter, which runs out, so we're going to need to find more batteries to recharge it. Our health meter, and our key for this padlock. So, if you want to use something, you just go into inventory, double tap it, and then use it in the world on the object. Also, there's an interesting thing that all the doors are physics objects like this, so you have to actually make the motion with your mouse to drag it open. Which is kind of neat, and I definitely prefer it to going up and pressing search key repeatedly on things like you do in Land of the Dead. Thankfully, this is a much, much better game than Land of the Dead. Ah, stupid chair. Get out of the way. Got a bottle of Jack Daniel here. But you know what we think of that. No alcohol on this voyage. This is all about soul searching and finding our father. So we got our notebook here. This is very important because a lot of helpful hints and such will appear in our notebook, as well as a to-do list, which will tell us where to go next when you get stumped. Which is helpful. You see, map of Greenland. I have no idea what the actual geography of Greenland is. I know it's cold and pretty rugged. It's all mountains and shit. Am I crouching? Yes, I am. So, this is our first note. For the notes, because there's a lot of them in this game, I'm not going to read them because I fucking hate when people do that. So instead, I'm just going to leave it up on the screen for a couple seconds. You guys can pause it and read it, which is why I suggest you guys watch this in HD. Also why I'm recording it in HD. And then just continue reading it, or continue the video once you're done reading the notes. So pause here, read the note. Now continue to the next page. And there we go. It's a little clunky, but I can't really think of a better way to do it. If I was doing this as a proper LP on the SA forums, I would have a thread for this and I could just post them up, but YouTube I'm going to have to kind of manage as best I can. So grab this glow stick, which is the only other piece of our main inventory. Can't take this jacket for some reason. And that's pretty much everything. We can get off the boat and start looking for our father. End of tutorial room, basically. That should be enough time to read that. You guys are quick. I'll try to summarize them quickly for those who don't actually read anything. So basically now we've wandered around for a couple hours in Greenland and immediately got lost, and now we're freezing to death. So we gotta get out of here. If this section, you can die, but it takes a very, very long time, and nothing interesting happens. You just fall over dead eventually. So that is the way we need to go, but because I played this, I'll know what to grab one of these, because they'll come in handy. And this is also part of the tutorial. Basically, you can throw things by right-clicking when you're holding them, which gives them more momentum than if you just swing them around. There's also this interact mode, which I always forget about, but it basically just makes the motions more fluid with things. So in this case, we've got a frozen solid shaft in the middle of the ground. And if you smash the rock on it, you can open it and kind of jack the thing open. There we go. And climb down. Well, shit. Looks like we're stuck down here now. One more little backstory thing that they basically tell you in the manual, I think, is that our character here, Phillip, is a 30-year-old physicist, which should come in handy in a game about physics puzzles. Emergency exit procedures. Well, I guess the emergency exit isn't much good when it falls apart. Empty boxes of ammunition. Alright, so I'm not sure how dark the videos are going to be, but I'm going to try to keep my glow stick up. You'd think the flashlight would be better, but as you can see, it's more of a directed beam, and also it uses batteries. The glow stick here is infinite, so we're going to try to use that as much as I can, because I like that it illuminates everything and not just whatever's in front of you. This right here is a flare. We're going to be finding a lot of flares in this game. I don't really like using them because I don't really see a use for them, but I'll show them off in a little bit. So this door is locked. This is our first to-do list note that basically just says, I'm stuck underground, I'm locked in. So we gotta find a way around that door. Old rations. A can that doesn't have any information about it. And, ooh, what's this? A hammer. Phillip, in that lot of text, basically just tells you that the hammer works much the same way as the other... I'll drag it to one of the number keys. Works the same way as the other actions in this game. You hold down the attack button and then drag it in the direction you want to swing it. Also, you notice that Phillip apparently uses this hammer with his mind. And we can use the hammer to break stuff. It's also a weapon, but... well, we'll get into weapons when we actually have to use one. Also, when you have a weapon out, you can't use your invisible hand. So, looks like we found ourselves a little shaft here. And with some deft handyman skill, break our way through into this claustrophobia-inducing tunnel. Whatever's down there seems to have run off. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've played a Resident Evil game and I'm pretty sure I know what a round hole means. It's cranking time. Of course, we don't actually have a crank yet, but this right here looks like it'll do. Oh, this is that door. Oh yeah, so you can see we couldn't open it because there was a barrel behind it. There's not really anything to the right that we're missing, also I can't get back up there. So, yank this into the hole, twist this. I'm going to try to talk a bit less as we get through this, just because it's a very atmospheric game, and, well, having someone talking over it doesn't really keep the atmosphere, but I'm going to try my best. Feel free to read that. And let's go. That little orange flash that comes up when you go through some transition points is an autosave. This game doesn't really have... well, it sort of does. Basically, all of that just says that fighting is not really a good idea, and it's better to sneak. So when you crouch down like this and stay still for a couple of seconds, you get our sort of Riddick-esque night vision, though if you move, it fades a bit. But still, when you're crouched and standing still, you're pretty much invisible to enemies. Though there's not actually any enemies down here, they're just telling you this for safekeeping. So we're here, coming in from the exit, but since obviously that exit is not going to help us, we have to get, looks of it, only through the northern area is the only way out of this mine. So let's check out the office on the way there. There's no in-game, or there's no in-menu map in this game, so you have to kind of remember the layouts of areas by looking at those maps. Usually there'll be a couple scattered around. So there's a lot of stuff in this office to check out. Old newspapers, filing cabinet. Sadly, the filing cabinet has nothing in it. Now, I know you're supposed to switch drawers from the bottom to the top, which I can actually do in this game. Ah, key and a note. Pause here. Pause here. Basically, it just says, for those who don't want to read the whole thing, that there are some unusual psychotropic materials down here, and people are pointed to Turngat, I think I'm saying that right, which are sort of Inuit evil spirits. We'll be hearing a little bit more about those later. So we got ourselves a bottle of Baxtrin. Well, what is Baxtrin, you say? Well, I don't know, but Phillip thinks it might come in handy, so let's trust him. Pause here. Pause here. And pause here. Basically, that log was just describing that the military personnel stationed here when this was a bunker from World War II had discovered some sort of artifact, being this little tin can looking thing here. So, let's see what happens when we touch one of these. Phillip might not think it's a good idea, but I know it is. These things function as save points, though they also cause Phillip, as you can see, to trip the hell out. Out of the way, chair. Ah, beef jerky. And apparently it smells awful. Which, understandable, because even beef jerky goes kind of sour over time. Good thing we've got more of it. At least Phillip won't starve down here. And ooh, painkillers. Painkillers will basically heal you, like they do in any game that painkillers are in. Needs a key. Well, we could use this key. Or we could just smash it open with the hammer. However, we're physicists, so we're refined, and we'll use the key like a proper person. Big Book of Explosives, 1923 edition. Pause here for black mash fuse. Pause here for dynamite. And pause here for TNT. Dynamite. And Armstrong's mixture. I wonder if anything in that will come in handy later on. Well, it will if we need to blow something up, I suppose, but is that really a good idea when you're trapped underground? And that's everything we'll find in the office, so... Now let's continue making our way towards the... Fuck. Didn't think that was gonna happen yet, but basically there is see that unpleasant little monster over there. I don't know if Phillip explained it yet, but there is an interesting mechanic in this game where if you look directly at it... Oh yeah, now he's explaining it. If you look directly at an enemy, Phillip will start to freak out and get heavy breathing and stuff, which will give away your location. So whenever you want to keep an eye on enemies, you kind of want to keep them on the edge of your vision so you're not looking directly at them. And use the lean function. Okay, I think the dog ran off, yeah. If you didn't get a good look at it, it's, well, more or less a dog. Very unpleasant dog. Now, you don't really have to worry about sneaking the entire area, just when you're close to an enemy. He seems to have wandered off, so we should be good. Now this leads over to the northern mine, if I'm correct. Which I am, since we're right there on that red circle. So let's go through here. Balls. It appears that this door is locked, so we'll have to find a key. Maybe in the workshop? Or the storage room. Now you should be able to see fairly well, because I've got the brightness turned up quite a bit. It does ruin a little bit of the atmosphere, but it's a fair trade-off for you guys actually being able to see what I'm doing. Oh, I went the wrong way. Now let's run. So I don't see Devil Dog anywhere close by. Alright, here we go. Here's the storage room. Now, I hate to be the bringer of bad news. The skittering noise is kind of bad news of its own, but this will actually conclude the first episode of Let's Play Penumbra. I've been your host, Shadefyre, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next episode, when we check out this room, and possibly proceed further into the mysteries of these mines.